Philly Boy J, back with another video showing you guys how to make shepherd's pie. Ooh, I love shepherd pie. Here's what you're gonna need to do. You're gonna need to get a frying pan and you're gonna place it over high heat. And to the pan, the only thing that we're going to be adding is 2 pounds of ground beef. We're going to give that a little stir, and while that's cooking, what we're going to do is chop up 1 small onion into very small pieces, like that right there. Once our ground beef has browned, we're going to add the chopped onions to the ground beef. And look at all that juice. Ground beef produces its own juice and oil. That's why we don't need to add anything to the pan other than ground beef. So we're going to add the onions, and we're going to add 1 big teaspoon of minced garlic. Now, if you don't have minced garlic, you can use garlic powder, but fresh minced garlic give it more flavor. You can actually taste the garlic a little more when you add the minced garlic versus adding garlic powder. And make sure you add a little bit of that juice too. Some of that garlic juice up in there. We're going to be adding 1 beef flavor bouillon cube just to enhance that beef flavor. Now, the beef flavor bouillon cube has some sodium in it, so we're not going to add a lot of salt because you're going to be getting a little bit of salt from the beef flavor bouillon cube. So 1 teaspoon of salt. You feel like you need more salt later, you can add more. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Don't want to add too much pepper because we're going to be adding the paprika, and we don't want it to be too hot. But if you like yours nice and spicy, then you can add a lot of pepper. But 1 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of paprika. That's going to give it color and flavor. We're going to add about a half a teaspoon of thyme leaves. You can use fresh thyme if you have some. And we're going to add the W sauce, 2 big teaspoons of W sauce. And we're going to add ketchup just to balance out all the flavors. And we're going to add 3 to 4 tablespoons of ketchup. Going to get us a nice stir. And all of these seasonings and condiments are going to result in a really, really good, flavorful beef for your shepherd's pie. Look at that. We're going to let this fry a little bit. Okay. Looks so good. You're going to combine 3 big tablespoons of flour with 2 cups of water. This is going to be our thickening agent. We're going to create our water flour slurry. And this is what's going to thicken our juice that's inside of the beef and turn it into a gravy. All right. So here is our ground beef. You want it to brown a little bit, fry a little bit. You don't want it to be burnt, but you want it to just have a nice brown color to it to get that additional flavor out. All right, so we're going to brown it, and look at that. You can just see that it's really, really flavorful and well seasoned, and looks absolutely delicious. So we're going to add the slurry to the pan of ground beef, and we're going to now reduce our heat from high to low or medium heat, and we're going to just allow this to simmer, allow the ground beef to simmer until the juice thickens and turns into a nice gravy. We want the ground beef in our shepherd's pie to have a nice thick gravy. Okay, so 15 to 20 minutes later, this is the way it should look. Look at that gravy. Look at that gravy. All of the seasonings and the condiments that we added are going to result in a really flavorful ground beef for your shepherd's pie. The Worcestershire, so the I'm not going to even do it. I'm not going to do it to myself. I'm not going to even try to pronounce that word. I'm not going to try to say it. I'm not going to try to say it. But the Worcestershire sauce, along with the ketchup and the paprika and the minced garlic, really good combination of seasonings and condiments. Give you a really good flavor. We're going to get a baking pan, and we're going to add our ground beef and our gravy to the baking pan. Look at that. I just love shepherd's pie. Mm, 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 mm. Now, at this point, you can taste it. Give it a taste test. And if you feel like you need more seasoning, you can add more. You feel like you need more of the seasonings and condiments that we put in the beef, you can add more at this point, because you're not going to be able to season it any further after this. You're going to add 1 cup of peas and carrots. These are frozen peas and carrots. Don't worry, they can be frozen. We're going to be cooking this again, so don't worry about the peas and carrots being frozen. Some people like to add corn and green beans. I don't like adding all those vegetables to my shepherd pie, but you can. I know some people that add corn, green beans, asparagus, and every other vegetable that you can think of, but I'm going to go the traditional route. I'm just going to add the carrots and the peas. And you want to smooth it out and flatten the top. This is the way I make my shepherd's pie. Y'all know I do everything a little different, guys. I don't know how other people make theirs. I don't know what their method is, but this is my method to making some of the best, most delicious and flavorful shepherd's pie. Flatten that out. Okay, so you're going to need Idaho Russets or Yukon Gold potatoes, and you're going to be using about 6 to 7 small or medium potatoes. Notice I said medium. That means it's in between small and medium. And the reason, guys, that I do not use a chef knife is because I have a fear of knives. Yeah, I was traumatized when I was a little kid by a movie, and ever since then I just never liked knives, and I cut myself a couple times using a really, really big knife. With a small knife, I feel like I have more control. So you're going to dice your potatoes up into small pieces like that, and you want to make sure that the shapes of potatoes are fairly even in sides so that they cook evenly. You're going to get a pot and you're going to place it over high heat, and we're going to add all of the diced up potatoes to the pot, and we're going to add water. Make sure that the water is cold, and you're going to cover the potatoes in water. You guys saw my mashed potato video, so you can just follow that video. Even though we're going to make these mashed potatoes a little different because we're adding this to the ground beef. This is shepherd pie we're making, so I make it a little different. Okay, you're going to cover it with a top, and you're going to allow it to simmer. And 20 minutes later, once it's fork tender, you can easily stick your fork through it. You're going to cut the fire off. And what we're going to do is we're going to drain this water in a little colander. Okay, because as you guys know, when you're making mashed potatoes, the potatoes have to be dry as possible. Wet potatoes will result in really gluey and unpleasant mashed potatoes. So you have to make sure that they're dry as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to place them back in the pot over high heat, and we're going to steam out some of that remaining water that's on our potatoes. We want them to be as dry as possible before we add any of the ingredients. Make sure that all of your ingredients that you add to your mashed potatoes are at room temperature or even warm, like your butter and your cream cheese that we're going to get ready to add, and your milk. You have to make sure that all of those ingredients are lukewarm. You can't add it to the potatoes straight out the refrigerator. They can't be cool. So we're going to smash our potatoes up. Once you smash them up and get the right consistency, you're going to add your butter, your milk, and your cream cheese. Okay, but make sure you smash these up. And we're going to add our butter. You want to add about 2 big tablespoons of room temperature butter. Okay, and you're going to add 3 big tablespoons, 3 to 4 big tablespoons of Philadelphia cream cheese. The cream cheese give it a nice flavor. You guys know how I make my mashed potatoes. Always add cream cheese to it. And you're going to add about a half a cup of milk. We want to make sure that Our potatoes are on the wetter side or loose side because we're going to be baking this and we don't want them to be very, very dry and tasteless when we get done baking them. Okay? So you're going to add 1 teaspoon of sugar. You're going to add about 1 teaspoon of black pepper. That's what we're going to be seasoning our potatoes with. We're going to season it with about 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're also going to add some grated Parmesan cheese, about 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. And we're going to add an egg yolk to the mashed potatoes. Just the yolk. That's going to give it color, and that's going to allow the potatoes to stiffen up a little later as they're baking. We want to put them in the baking pan rather loose, but once it's done, we want it to be on a thicker side, like a pie, okay? And if you don't add the egg, the potato might be really loose, and you don't want really loose potatoes for shepherd's pie. So you're going to cover the beef with the potatoes, and you're going to get a fork and smooth them out. Don't smooth them out with a spoon because you're going to get some of the beef and gravy on the top, and that's unpleasant. You want it to look nice and pretty like this. We're going to add our paprika, and we're going to add a little bit of parsley flakes. Okay? Just to kind of decorate it, give it a nice look. So add a little bit of paprika and parsley flakes. You're going to bake it in 400 degrees for 30 minutes until it looks like this. Look at that shepherd's pie. Look at that shepherd's pie. Look at the cream cheese on the side, folk. See how it turned orange? Has a little color to it now. That looks absolutely delicious. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a big piece of this shepherd's pie. And this is the way I cut mine. Like this right there. To a big square. And I start on the ends. I shouldn't have to tell you guys that. You guys know when you're cutting pie, you got to start on the end. Okay, guys. And we're going to plate our shepherd's pie. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that shepherd's pie. Look at that. Absolutely delicious. And as you can see, the potatoes are really flavorful and colorful, and that's because we added the cream cheese and we made sure that the potatoes were well seasoned. Made sure our ground beef was well seasoned, has a lot of different flavors in it. This is please guys, try this recipe. I'm begging you to try this shepherd's pie recipe. It is absolutely delicious. Okay, give it a shot. Look at that. It looks beautiful. So that's the way Philly Boy J makes his shepherd pie. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. It tastes absolutely delicious. You know, I didn't particularly like shepherd's pie at one time, but I decided to switch it up and make it myself one day when I didn't have anything else in the house to make. I said, you know, I do have some ground beef and I do have some vegetables and I do have some potatoes. Let me make some shepherd's pie. Let me try to add some flavor to it and see how it come out if I make it my way. And it came out really, really good, and I've been making it this way ever since. Okay? I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. Philly Boy J showing you guys how to make shepherd's pie. Peace.